Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It. Today's topic is wireless fidelity, otherwise known as
Wi-Fi, or as the French Canadians say, Wi-Fi.
Isn't that the Nintendo game console?
No, but it sounds like it. That would be Wii. That would just Wii. Yeah. So Wi-Fi, WI-FI, Wi-Fi is the short term for wireless fidelity. And what we're basically talking about is wireless, right? We're talking about almost every single person in the office is using Wi-Fi these days for either their laptop or their tablet or their cell phone. So let's hear more about that. How do we get that more stable? How do we get that to be a better situation for the client?
Yeah, lots of products now use Wi-Fi. Even my stove and washing machine connect to my network via
I think
Wi-Fi.
that's popular with Samsung. They got a lot of wireless devices now. Your fridge can tell you when you're out of milk and stuff.
That's right. So like Wi-Fi is very obviously very useful because you don't need to have network cables running all over your house or office to utilize it.
That's the handy thing.
But there's a lot of things you do need to do to properly secure it and to make it better as far as standard speeds and everything goes. So one of the things that you can do is to make sure you're using the latest wireless encryption, which right now for most people will be called WPA2.
Yeah.
And most devices now would support that without issue. It gives you very good speeds. But there's also some other things you need to make sure of, that your access points, which is what
I think that's a big topic, right? Because a lot of people are using the built-in wireless that comes with the modem or the router from their internet service provider. Even corporate are doing the same. They wouldn't know different probably most of the time. Of course, that little device is not going to go very far. It's typically in where the server room is or where the internet connection is. So it's not going to get far, and then they end up maybe putting in repeaters and little things that are meant to connect to an existing Wi-Fi connection and then expand it from there. And I just don't find that's the best way to go. We like actual mesh type access points. So they're going to look very similar to like a smoke detector.
Although they don't detect smoke
at all, no. They'll be attached on the ceiling, and basically they get a wire as well, right? So from where they're plugged in, they will radiate that signal, about 300 feet in a circle.
Yeah, depending on the access point, and some are better than others, obviously.
Yeah, and so the goal is that you're going to have this circle of distance that it covers, and you're meant to try to overlap those circles in larger offices, in warehouses, what have you, so that it's just seamless Wi-Fi no matter where you are. Typically, you would be walking with a laptop in your hand from one end of the building to the other, and you wouldn't notice a difference. You wouldn't notice a drop in connection. Signal wouldn't fluctuate. They work quite well. I think they're quite a bit more expensive than the typical routers we'd see at Best Buy.
A little bit, but I think there's a lot of well-priced access points out there now today that can be managed. Like we have a lot of clients that we manage all those access points from one single portal, so it's very easy to see when something goes down or is not working optimally, and that can be tuned remotely. So for a lot of offices, that Wi-Fi connection is super important.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure it's in the right spots, and you also want to make sure that it doesn't go beyond those spots. You really don't want to be radiating that Wi-Fi coverage
out into the street for people to try to hook on
beyond your building. So there's lots of things you can do. You talk to your IT provider and have them tune that so it best fits within your space.
Another thing that's important, I think, with using proper access points is that we can create multiple networks, right? We're not just having that single one that we could create on the modem or the router that came with your provider. We could create a guest network, for example, that maybe doesn't have a password, but it also doesn't have access to anything on the network. We could create other types of networks that would be maybe for different types of staff, warehouse staff versus office, things like that. You just can't do these things with the typical routers and typical wireless devices that you'd find,
Yeah, you can really segregate things as you wish with a proper Wi-Fi system.
Yeah.
So it's changed quite a bit, and the other thing that's happened over the last few years, speeds have
dramatically
increased considerably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in order to get the fastest speeds, which in some cases they're faster than some wired networks.
Agreed.
So in order to get those speeds, you need to make sure that you've got a current access point that you're connecting to, current devices that you're using, current drivers, all that sort of thing. So that's that takes a little bit of know-how to do, but it can really impact how your device performs.
Well, again, we're encouraging them to come back to their MSP and ask questions, find out how to get these, because I don't think these are commercially available, right? You can't just go buy this in retail shop. Like,
it's not easy to, and then putting it all together and making it work is not necessarily the easiest thing to do, and it does take some testing as well to make sure that you have the coverage throughout the house. The other thing that has opened up in the past few years is being able to put access points somewhere where you may not be near an outlet.
Agreed.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, about power over Ethernet? And
yeah, so these devices, these fancy access points, we'll call them wireless access point, they get power from either a switch, meaning where we plug the wires in, or they'll get power through what you mentioned, the power over Ethernet injector. So it's basically a little device that plugs into the wall, and then it will provide power through the Ethernet wire to the cable. Maybe a little bit over some people's heads, but the general gist is that you're correct. In some places you can't get an Ethernet port, you can't plug a computer in there. So if you were to put a Wi-Fi and guarantee that they had a reliable connection, that would be the way to do it,
Yeah, the neat thing is you can just run a network cable to an access point that's on your ceiling, for instance, and it doesn't have to be near a plug.
No, agreed.
An outlet anywhere. So it's a really nice looking installation, and it works very well. Thanks for joining us today, and be sure to post your questions below and we'll answer them on a future show.
And also subscribe so you can hear more about business IT topics and some of our bad IT jokes as well. Hope to see you next time.
Thanks.